Let me just start by saying the fact Disney and Lucasfilm Games finally decided to do a KOTOR remake and actually make this thing happen is fantastic and a huge deal. There was an article that came out the other day asking the guys at Lucasfilm why it took so long for them to get this thing off the ground. There have been rumors of this game, a remake, circling around for years now, and finally it's happening. So why did it take them so long? Well, let's find out. And also, there's a huge problem with the KOTOR remake. A lot of people have been talking about that is going to affect a lot of players once the game releases. Something so many people are annoyed about that's not going to change. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Today's video is sponsored by Ace Defender, a free-to-play RPG with a focus on tower defense. You know how in Attack of the Clones, the Jedi were completely swarmed by the droid army, or the Jedi being slaughtered? Well, that's kind of how you feel in this game, except unlike the Jedi, you're able to actually deal with the hordes of enemies without the need of a clone army. Useless Jedi. This here is the single-player campaign. A rebellion in the Dragon Clan threatens the balance of good and evil. This game's story is huge. Currently, there are nearly 2,000 levels with over 40 chapters to play through as part of the turn-based RPG and tower defense modes. Now, each hero you play as also has their own traits and background story, like this dude with 2 flame swords. He looks like they were forged in the lava lakes of Mustafar next to where Anakin professed his love for Obi-Wan. There are also new heroes added every 2 weeks. Lots of stuff to try. As for game modes, you got the Expedition solo mode, as well as offline PvE and online PvP, where you can take your best squad into battle against other players and show them who's boss. If you click the link in the description, when you hit level 10, new players will receive 150k gold, 700 diamonds, and several other freebies to level up, unlock, and hit the ground running. Download Ace Defender now using the link in the description. So according to Lucasfilm, why did it take them so long to get this thing off the ground? Well, in this interview, they responded about the KOTOR remake, saying, "It's such a great game. That's a great question. Again, it's a remake of my favorite Star Wars game of all time, a lot of people's favorite Star Wars game, a lot of people's favorite video game, period. It's definitely a part of the Legends impression of Star Wars. I think it took a long time to find the right group, Aspire, to want to do it well. And I think it was just time to share this moment in Star Wars history with a new audience." That was Lucasfilm Vice President James Waugh giving an interview for Star Wars Visions. He was also asked about the KOTOR remake. So what he seems to say is that they hadn't previously made the KOTOR remake because they wanted to find the right studio and developers to work on the game, even though they were literally partnered with EA, and BioWare are the guys who originally made this. Guess they're busy with other games. But Lucasfilm actually said something similar a few months ago, back when asked about the new open world Ubisoft Star Wars game, saying open world is something they'd been wanting to do for ages. They know everyone has been wanting this kind of game. And again, they just never felt like they had the right studio working for them to get the job done. Remember EA's Visceral Games were previously working on an open world Star Wars game before that was cancelled and the studio was shut down as a result? So here again, they're coming out and indirectly saying that due to EA's exclusive 10-year deal with the Star Wars gaming license, Lucasfilm Games didn't want to make these games yet. EA weren't the ones to work on an open world Star Wars game or the KOTOR remake, according to Lucasfilm Games, right? Isn't that what they're saying here? But all that said, it's just like a massive middle finger to EA, isn't it, in some way? I mean, it's clear they value EA as a partner, but clearly not to make these games. But all that said, there's a problem a lot of people have been talking about regarding the KOTOR remake that will affect lots of players once the game releases. Something so many people are annoyed about that's not going to change. So the big problem with the KOTOR remake that I'm talking about is the PlayStation exclusivity. At launch, as you probably know by now, the KOTOR remake is only releasing for the PS5 and possibly also PC at the same time. To be honest though, this isn't entirely clear. Some people seem to think the PS5 and PC versions are releasing on the same day at the same time, but the way Lucasfilm Games have worded this makes me think the PS5 version will be the first to release, like a timed exclusive at launch, right? So can we just get one thing straight? Is the KOTOR remake a PS5 timed exclusive at launch, or is it releasing at the same time for PC? Because I still can't figure it out. Seriously, how confusing can they make this? Lucasfilm Games, a legendary story remade for a new generation of players, is coming to PlayStation 5 and PC. Okay, great, that's simple. It doesn't tell me when, right? StarWars.com, the classic RPG returns as a PlayStation 5 console exclusive at launch and for PC. What does that mean? Can they make the wording of this thing any more cryptic? Well, at least there's one thing we can say for sure. It sucks to be an Xbox player, which is the main issue here. Did you recently go to the store or online and order an Xbox for $750 $60 or however much they cost. You did? Well, too bad, because you won't be able to play the KOTOR remake whenever it releases, unless you also have a gaming PC. But wait a sec, you just spent $750 on a new Xbox. You probably can't afford a gaming PC unless you're lucky. But dude, oh, come on. I have no issue with console exclusive games. I get it. You know, it's money. It's a business. They're trying to print money. But it's like Halo, right? Halo games have always been on Xbox, Xbox exclusive, and PC as well. But I've barely ever played Halo because I've always owned PlayStations. And I'm cool with that. On the PlayStation side of things, we got games like the Uncharted series, God of War, The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, which I'm also totally cool with because each of these have always been exclusives and they're their own series and franchises. They're not part of a much larger pre-existing IP like Star Wars, which is why so many people have an issue with the KOTOR remake being a PS5 exclusive on the console side of things. It's a Star Wars game, not an original game made for either Sony or Microsoft. Not part of a new universe or a new IP. No, it's part of the largest Star Wars universe and is a game people refer to as one of the best video games of all time. So by making this console specific, Lucasfilm Games are alienating a huge chunk of their Star Wars audience. They're never going to be able to play this unless they own a PC, if you're lucky, or if you have an Xbox. But what's funny about this is that the original KOTOR 1 and 2 were both Xbox exclusives at launch, when they launched way back. So they're basically flipping this. Players who owned an Xbox back in the day got to play this, while if you were someone like me, a PS2 owner, you missed out. I've never played KOTOR, and this is why it was never on a PlayStation console. The original game released for Xbox on July 19, 2003, and then for PC on November 19, 2003. So months later, timed Xbox exclusive at launch. But the difference is, back then in the early 2000s, it was much, much harder to develop games from multiple platforms than it is today. The console hardware and technology was still so new back then. Game consoles had only really been a thing for a handful of years, and the reason KOTOR was made for Xbox and PC was because the developers at BioWare were just more familiar with developing for Xbox. Here's a quote from one of the lead devs back then. "We could do the things we wanted to do on the Xbox without as much effort as we'd need to do it on the PS2 or GameCube." So it seems like the decision was pretty clear to develop it for Xbox. And it paid off. KOTOR was one of the first RPG games to release for the Xbox and became the fastest selling Xbox game ever at the time of release, selling 250,000 copies in its first 4 days. So what I'm trying to say is, back in the day when this thing originally came out, I could understand why it was an Xbox exclusive at launch. Even though arguably games are harder to make nowadays with the graphic fidelity and detail that can be created and put into the games, as far as I know, they're way easier to develop from multiple consoles and just basically port from one to the other. Therefore, the only reason the KOTOR remake is a PS5 exclusive is for money. Lucasfilm and Disney are clearly being given a massive, massive cut of the money accumulated from sales, and they've been bought out by Sony, who realized that having the KOTOR remake as a PS5 exclusive will likely sell a lot of PS5s. A lot of people are going to go out and buy a PS5 just to play this thing as soon as it releases. It's one of the best Star Wars games of all time. You're either playing it because you grew up playing it and you want to re-experience it with modern graphics and performance, you need to get a PS5 to do that, or you're new to KOTOR, you love Star Wars and you want to experience a Star Wars RPG for the first time, and that's the problem here. It's only being developed for a specific Star Wars audience, the PS5 Star Wars audience to begin with, and that's the issue. It's frustrating, it's isolating the player base, and no one wants that. That said, I'm still excited about the game coming out, but I'd love to know, would this prompt you to go and actually buy a PS5 if it's only on PS5 as soon as it launches? Are you going to wait for the PC version? And do you wish it was going to be on Xbox? Please let me know in the comments. Go check out the Clips channel for daily clips posted there, and come follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord for the latest Star Wars gaming news, updates, and everything else. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.
Stay bombastic.